This video will be a quick introduction to the Jumper T12 radio control transmitter. What's different about this one? Well, there's a couple things. First of all, the RF module is only external. There's no internal component to the controller. The next thing that's unusual is that this is an OpenTX radio. It's not an OpenTX radio. It uses OpenTX as its base, but it has been branched or forked off of the main OpenTX platform by Jumper, and that will have some pros and cons that we'll talk about as we go through this introduction. Okay, a little more about what you get in the kit. You get an instruction guide, quick start guide. It's not really instructions on how to use the radio or the menu. It doesn't tell you what the functions are or what they do. That you have to find on the internet or bring from prior experience. Put that aside. There's a battery tray. You can use AA's with springs. Problem is that there's a question about how much voltage you need to really run certain protocols, being about 5.5, which is only a partially used AA's. NiCads wouldn't even get there. It uses a 2S balance connector. I'm using a 2S battery in the radio to run the radio. There is a USB cable. I haven't even taken it out. I've got so many of them. They could probably not include it, and a lot of people wouldn't care. And there's a nice thing they do include is the neck strap. I have not used it yet. I'm using it mostly with small quads, and have not used it with any planes outside yet. Okay, so here we come down to the two major components. We have the controller, the external RF. This module is a multi-protocol module, can control a variety of different brands of receivers. So it controls most of the majors that you currently have, some old school that probably don't exist any longer, and it can control a lot of the small quads, which is why it's really a cool thing. It has a jack to be able to be updated. Currently, the firmware that was shipped with is about 10 months old, and I will update mine soon and put instructions on what I found in doing the update on my blog. In fact, because this is just an introductory video, I'm going to have most of my findings from the last couple weeks will be in the blog. There'll be a link for that in the description that you'll find. And in addition to that, there will be a couple other links. There'll be one for RCGroups, and there's been lots of questions and answers provided on RCGroups about this radio in particular, and a little bit about how to use it. There has been also a request by Banggood who provided this for review, to have a link to their product page so that you can get to it and buy it if you're interested. Now, that link will have an ID, and they're trying to track how well the reviewers are doing at getting people to go over and look at it. So I'm not going to get anything for you clicking on that link. I don't think you'll pay any more, but it does tell Banggood, hey, we looked at the review and we appreciate you putting this product out there for us to review. So I'd appreciate it if you would thank them by going ahead and clicking on the link from my either my web page or from the description on this video, so that they know that you appreciate them putting product out there for us to be able to see the new things that are coming out. Okay, the radio also has a ability to update its firmware here, USB, and then there's a trainer port here as well. The radio has the bay at the back. There's these little pins. The module slips in place. Be very careful not to bend those pins. Get it setting properly in place, and slowly seat it down into place, and it snaps in place. Okay, so that's the T12. Let's look at the module. Let me get it booting up.
Welcome to Jumper TX.
Okay, I don't know if you can see it yet on the back with the backlight there, but I've updated the one I came with said welcome to OpenTX, and this is since this is not an OpenTX radio, it is a branch off of OpenTX. It needed to have its own identity, and so I've updated the radio to reflect that. Uh, the, there has been at least one person who has flashed the radio with the OpenTX software, and it didn't break it, but it doesn't work because the screen was upside down and the button controls didn't work because the buttons are different than any other OpenTX radio that is supported by OpenTX. So it is OpenTX, but it's not really OpenTX. Okay, now you can see the screen looks like an OpenTX radio screen, and I've got one set up for simulator. That's because I can use the USB, just like any OpenTX radio, to work with my simulator on the PC and keep my flying skills up to date or work out new techniques on the simulator before I go out and try to do them on a quad or on a plane. How do these controls work on the T12? Well, there's a menu button right here in the center, and then there's an enter and there's a back or escape button. There are scroll buttons for here on top and bottom, and then this is a tab button. So that it works pretty much like it. It took me a couple days to quit making mistakes and do it the right way, but I'm getting used to it, and it's a little different, but it works. And it's a pretty cool little radio. Okay, I'm not going to try to go through the menu screens and all that. There are some good resources. I'm going to put those on my blog as links, and I will cover the experiences I've had in using this for the last couple weeks. But I wanted to at least also show, this is the radio that the T12 was modeled after in some respects, because it has the same basic switch arrangement. It has a different menu control system, as I said, and it does not have the internal antenna and RF section that this radio has. The pots that are on top here on the X7 or over here on the corners, I like that quite a bit. I kind of wish the X7 had that. That's probably the best feature I've seen that was a new feature introduced. The X7 does also have a bay on the back for a module, so I can move the module from this radio over to my X7. I actually have a couple other modules, but so I don't need to do that with this. But the X7 price-wise is about comparable to this, but it doesn't include the module. I thought it might be an extra cost option with this. So that's one of the values of the T12. The X7's a really nice radio. It's a bit heavier and larger. This is small and convenient. Can be easily stuffed into a backpack, and I appreciate the form size. Weight-wise, it's only about an ounce heavier than a comparable joystick style radio that is also small and packable. So I think that this is a pretty good option, an alternative to that. Another key advantage that Jumper claims is that this is crossfire compatible with no hardware changes. Some of the other radios need to have some hardware changes for crossfire to work correctly, and supposedly it works natively on this. I've seen some videos where people have plugged it in and said it works. I haven't seen any videos of demonstration, but they're probably out there now too. What else? Well, you got 16 channels with a 16-channel receiver. You can get telemetry with a telemetry receiver, so depending on the protocol and the receiver that you're working with, you've got quite a bit of value in terms of the firmware being able to handle the capabilities of a lot of different receivers. You've got the JR Bay built in. You've got the ability to update both the module and the radio firmware. The updates in the future for Jumper, we've not done any history. They'll have to rebranch or refork the software when there's another major advance in OpenTX for this to stay comparable. There's also another firmware called ER Sky 9X. It's written by Mike Blanford, and he's also a key developer on OpenTX, and his firmware has already been made available for this transmitter as well, so you have some choices. The ER Sky, I understand, is a little more menu-driven than the OpenTX is, but they do work very similar from what I've seen so far. I mentioned that this module is about 10 months old in terms of the firmware updates for the module itself. I will do either another video or a blog entry on how to do the updates when I tackle that. That'll probably be in the next few days. And I think I mentioned that I use this as a simulator with the USB cord. I use Clearview RC, which is free. It's mostly just to get my stick orientation and to be able to get the feel of the sticks as I try new things on a quad or on a plane, just using the basic trainer models that were available. And finally, I want, just before I close, to say thanks. Banggood, because of that tracking link that they put onto their link to their product, it would be very much appreciated if you would click over to there so that they know you're seeing the reviews and you appreciate that they're putting product out there for reviewers to be able to make available to you. Whether you buy it or not, I don't think it makes any difference in the price, and I hope that you'll just let them know that you are seeing the videos by clicking on the links, and so they know you're going over to their website from the video, and that's something that you appreciate, is that you're able to get these reviews. I'm thankful to them for that. I will have links in my description for RCGroups, for my blog, where I have more information, and for the threads that are for the T12, where you can see other questions and answers that have happened along with the history of how this transmitter came to be. Thank you for watching.